Hey guys, so yeah, it's about 1:11 p.m. and as you heard in the live stream that I did earlier, on my way to the bus stop in Patterson, I was let off early today along with many others due to the fact that because of a power outage we had in the area, mostly affecting Patterson more so than here in Newman, where the power did go out, the lights flickered and everything, the power did go out. Well, what I'm trying to say is the lights flickered, then the power went out for a brief moment, for like a minute or so, and then it came back on. It mostly affected Patterson, where my job's at, me and my sister's job's at, and because it affected it, and it happened on Saturday night, and the warehouse being closed on the weekend, it basically caused a lot of things to fall behind. It caused a lot of things to fall behind, in certain areas. So because of that, we had a slow day to the point that they gave us the opportunity to do VTO, voluntary time off, which means basically you're not going to get in trouble for it. They've approved it. They said, hey, look, there's not much we could do right now until tomorrow, hopefully. So here, why don't you take this opportunity to relax, catch a breather, catch up on things, do whatever you like, and then we'll see you the following day. And that's pretty much what happened. And that's pretty much what myself and other people, that are there, those that have been there for years, those that have been there for, since the beginning, those that just got hired over the past several weeks, like me. We took the opportunity to say, hey, if that's the case, we out. And, we did that. We all did that. So there's a lot of us right now that are probably just relaxing, doing what we want to do, and that's about it. But I wanted to come on here because, from what I've understood, tonight is a very historic night for WWE because this will be the last Monday Night Raw under the McMahon regime. That's right. As of tomorrow, the deal that was put into place earlier this year with Endeavor that's going to merge UFC and WWE under one banner that will be public, that will go public on the New York Stock Exchange this week, if not, very soon, under the banner of TKO. That deal, that acquisition, where Endeavor will own 51% of WWE and Vince and his family will own 49%, that deal will finally come to a close as of tomorrow, which means, like I said, this is the last Monday Night Raw under the McMahon regime. And there's a lot of folks that look at this as being historic due to the fact that, for the first time since he took over from his father, Vince McMahon will once again have a boss. Because you have to realize this. When Vince Sr. was running the WWF, and then later on WWF, if you will, and even the Capital Wrestling Company, if you will, whatever it was called, basically Vince Sr. was the primary boss, and Vince Jr., his son, was his employee. In other words, Vince McMahon Jr., right now, who's the chairman till midnight tonight, apparently, he was basically taking orders from his father, back when it was the Capital Wrestling Company, or Capital Wrestling Center, or whatever it was called, under his regime, under the McMahon Sr.'s, regime, before it went and became the WWF and then WWF, if you will. He was basically taking orders from his dad before he bought his dad out and took control for himself. Now, for the first time since that opportunity happened, which was about, my God, 40 plus years ago, to this year, which I assume is the case, 40 plus years to the year, to this year. for the first time in that long in that long for the first, well, I'm trying to find the right words here. Basically, for the first time since that situation, since that lifetime, if you will, McMahon will once again, for the first time, in a lifetime, 40 plus years, 40 plus years, if you will, Vince McMahon Jr. will have a boss. He will have a boss in Ari Emanuel. Now, Ari basically said, look, I'll acquire this company, make it part of Endeavor, merge it with UFC, put it under this TKO banner, only if Vince is part of it. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, great, that means Vince, he's going to get what he wants. Ultimate power, he's going to take over. Creative is doomed and all that. And I think little by little, it has been revealed. Whether Vince is out because he's recovering from spinal surgery or whatever the case may be, it has been revealed that all our worries are not what they seem to be. I mean, I'm not saying we don't have, a reason to worry. Okay? I'm not saying we have a reason to worry. I'm just saying a lot of that worriness that we had, it's kind of dying down a little bit. It's dying down a little bit. Not saying it still ain't there, but it's dying down to the point that we're realizing, and the more reports we're hearing, is that Triple H is still going to be the guy running creative, now more so than he's ever been. Not just what he's doing right now because Vince is out, but, for the long term. For the long term down the line. And mainly because of the fact that Vince is going to be more involved with the business side of things. He's going to be more involved with, the business side of things, like, making deals and everything, like with television and marketing and all that. That's what he's going to be involved in. That's what he's going to be involved in. And I do apologize. That's our neighbor's rooster, across the way that's crowing. I have the windows open for some fresh air. It's not too bad right now. Might have to close them later. But anyway, like I said, Vince is going to be more in charge. The more we're hearing about it, through various sources, he's going to be more in charge, and more involved in the business aspect of marketing, television, making certain deals, and all that, making certain arrangements, that don't involve creative. He has said himself, whether you believe the guy or not, that the only time he'd ever be involved with creative is at that main event scene. Like if it's a scenario that he needs to oversee, only then would he be involved. But I think honestly, we're not going to have to worry about that, as much. I don't think we'll have to worry about that, as much, when it comes to Vince being involved. Honestly, I don't think we have to worry about it that much. In fact, Ari Emanuel is not, let's be honest, Ari Emanuel, I don't know much about the guy, but from what I've heard, he's a smart person. He's a very understanding, he's a very with it, very now individual. That's not behind the times and everything like people say Vince is. He's very much a now person. So obviously he sees the reaction that people are giving WWE with the sellouts and everything, the viewership numbers and all that, the excitement of what they see on Raw currently, the investment they have on NXT, with NXT and what they're doing, and the same with SmackDown. He's not stupid. He realizes that, he's not stupid. He realizes that if he changes this, it could be a change for the worst. So he realizes that people like what they're seeing, so he's going to keep it the way it is. And he's going to keep the people involved, involved with making it what it is. He's going to keep them in their place. That includes Paul Levesque. Which again kind of correlates with the reports that have come out lately through various sources, that basically Vince is going to be more involved with the business side of things once he's fully recovered or capable of getting out of his house or whatever. He's going to be more involved with the business side of things than creative. So we don't have much to worry about with that. And as far as talent goes, I think this is one time we don't have to worry about talent being cut. I think, honestly, all signs are pointing to people on the business end of things for WWE at the Stanford offices in Connecticut. All signs point to them basically being laid off, being let go. Not the talent. Not the talent. Because if that was the case, we would have had reliable sources like Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp himself. We would have had Mike Johnson, a PW Insider, and several others. We would have had them come out and say, yeah, part of the cuts part of the cuts we hear they're going to make is talent. We haven't heard that. Instead, what we've heard is that the layoffs and cuts they're going to make involve basically certain departments that Endeavor already has, and they don't really need 2 or 3 of them under the same name. They just need one. So that's what we're hearing. And yeah, it's unfortunate these people are going to have to lose their jobs and everything because of this merger, but maybe that's not going to happen. Maybe they'll lose their job, that they're currently, working under, right now with WWE, but maybe, and I apologize, my knee hit my desk right there, but maybe they might be offered another position in Endeavor. Like, they might say, hey, look, we don't need you in this position because we already have that, but we got something that you might like, or something that's just as good, if not better. They might be offered, a different position in Endeavor. So that's something to think about as well. But talent, believe it or not, for the first time in years, as far as we know, has nothing to worry about. They really don't. They have nothing to worry about. Getting some Coca-Cola here. But they have nothing to worry about, which is good. Which is a good thing. And, if we don't have, and if we, like the talent, don't have to worry about them going anywhere, losing their jobs, then I think we're going to have, a decent product on our hands. I mean, when you look across the board in WWE, they are planting seeds, not just for future storylines, depending whether or not you're watching Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. They're planting the seeds for certain storylines that are going to involve returns, eventually, to television. Like, we already know Johnny Gargano is coming back, and he's going to be teaming with Tommaso Ciampa. We know that. That was hinted at weeks ago when in a backstage segment, Candice is like, I'm not sure about, you bringing him in, or this or that. And then it got further elaborated on with Ciampa putting out all these, have you seen Johnny Gargano things? And now Johnny recently came back at a live event against Omos, even though he lost. At least, he came back. So he's on the verge. He's going to be returning soon to get involved with Ciampa as, part of DIY or whoever. Or whatever they got planned for him. And then you look on the SmackDown side. You got Asuka and Io Sky that are going to be competing a week from this Friday for the SmackDown Women's Championship. You're going to get a strong style Stardom, as far as fans are hoping for, a strong style Stardom matchup between Asuka and Io. That's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get. And when you think about it, it does plant the seeds for Kairi Sane, who's been basically already acknowledging she's coming back, for her to make her return on SmackDown to align with Asuka. That's something that could, happen as well. That is something that could happen as well. So, for the first time in a while, the talent and fans, along with the fans, don't have nothing to worry about because wrestling is such a hot commodity right now. I guess it's in a boom. I don't really know. People saying it is. That, I don't think Ari Emanuel or his team, would want to even consider cutting any talent. I mean, did they cut any talent when they acquired UFC, from Dana White, but kept Dana White on as the figurehead? Did they cut any talent there? No. They didn't cut any talent. They kept it on, and they let Dana White continue, running UFC as if there was no, acquisition period. As if there was no acquisition period. So the same could be said pretty much here for WWE. And again, the biggest thing that people worry about may not be such a worrying thing after all, if what reports are saying are true, and that is Vince McMahon is mostly going to be involved in the business side of things and not creative. Because that's the one worryiness. It's like, oh, he's going to have ultimate power. Oh no, things are going back to crap. Nope. Instead, he'll be more involved with the business side of things once he's fully recovered. But you know what? Ari Emanuel and the board of directors, which is going to be mostly, Endeavor people, involved with, I'm guessing it's mostly Endeavor people representing the board, along with some WWE people. But, Ari Emanuel and the board, they might just suggest to Vince, look, maybe it's time for you to step down. Maybe it's time for you to step down, because if you're needing this just to keep yourself going, maybe you need to hang it up. We can find somebody else. Maybe you can recommend somebody for to take your place, but maybe it's time for you to hang it up. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I wouldn't be. Now, would Vince, go along with it and say no? Go along with it and say, yeah, Ari, you're right, I do need to retire? No. Do you think he wanted to have to say it's time for him to retire last year? Amongst those accusations, just to get out of the spotlight. Do you think he wanted to do that? No. He's the kind of person that will die with his company, die in the middle of that ring, if you will, before he's basically forced into retirement. So even if Ari Emanuel and the board suggested to him, he'll say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm good to go no matter how, I'm good to go, and I'll be here no matter how I have to be. Or no matter how I have to be involved, I will be here. He will basically have to be dragged kicking and screaming into retirement by Ari Emanuel and the board of directors if they would have suggested to him, once he recovers. Because to me, like I said, Ari Emanuel is an it guy. He is a now guy. He's a with the times, not in the past guy. He's with the times kind of guy. And he is someone that is willing to recognize that maybe someone like Vince perhaps needs to consider retirement or semi-retirement. To kind of, keep themselves, to basically protect themselves, to keep themselves going, keep themselves alive, if you will. He might suggest, he and the board might suggest that to Vince. We don't know. But like I said, Vince is the kind of person that will not go along with it. Again, he'd have to be dragged kicking and screaming into it. But also, like I've said before, I don't think, and speaking of Vince, let me go back, All right. Speaking of Vince, let's be honest. How many of us truly believe that Vince likes Ari Emanuel? How many of us truly believe that? You can raise your hand if you believe it. You can comment. You can say it in the live chat if you believe it, or in the comments. Excuse me. If you believe it. What? Is there anybody? Is there anybody? No. And you know why there isn't anybody answering that? Because everybody, like myself, knows Vince McMahon doesn't like Ari Emanuel. He doesn't. He's only going to make it look like he's good friends with him. He's going to smile and say, yeah, me and Ari are good friends. We're buddy. We get along. We like to golf together. We like to share stories about family. He'll make himself, he'll make himself look good by saying he's good friends with Ari Emanuel. But the truth is, he despises him. That's what I think. That I think Vince McMahon truly despises him. And the only reason he made this deal happen is because he knew that Ari Emanuel was his last course, if you will, to try to remain with the WWE. Because everybody else that wanted to acquire WWE, they said, yeah, we'll take WWE in a heartbeat. We'll take WWE in a heartbeat, but there's a catch. We don't want Vince because of all his, past situations. We don't want him, part of the company. We want him out. Vince saw this and said, that's not going to happen. I need to find another way to stay in power, kind of keep some kind of control, whether I'm involved in creative or not. His thought was, I got to find a way. And his best way was Ari Emanuel. Ari Emanuel basically said, yeah, Vince, well, I'll keep you on. I'll keep you on, my friend. I'll keep you on and everything. No problem. And pretty much the rest is history. And that's, in my opinion, how the deal came about. Vince basically went to Ari Emanuel, sucked up to him and everything, and said, Ari, buddy, how would you like to own a majority of WWE? And Ari's like, well, what's the catch? And Vince is like, well, you get 51% of the company. I'll maintain 49%, but you got to keep me on as part of the board of directors. How about that? You can merge it with UFC too you merge it under UFC as well. What do you say? Or however it went, and Ari probably went with it. Vince basically, I'm not saying he manipulated him, but basically he smooth talked Ari Emanuel, in my opinion, to buying WWE and keeping him around. But in truth, Vince really doesn't like Ari. He doesn't. He doesn't like Ari. And he knew that the only way Ari Emanuel might even consider buying WWE is if he offered a majority of ownership to Ari Emanuel and Endeavor, instead of the other way around. And that's pretty much what caught Ari Emanuel's eye was, I can own the company? I'll have majority ownership? Got yourself a deal. And yeah, in return, I'll keep you on as part of the board of directors as an executive chairman. How's that? And that's pretty much how I think it went. He basically convinced him, manipulated him, tricked him, conned him, whatever you want to look at it, into purchasing the company, even offering up 51% of ownership to him, so to make it happen, to make it a reality. But I don't think he really likes him. I don't think he liked the idea that he had to offer up 51% ownership to him just to make the deal happen. But he did it because, as everybody said, he wanted to try to find a way, and I truly believe this. He wanted to find a way to stay a part of the company, stay in power as a part of the company, even if it meant he has to answer to somebody else now. And again, I think that's why deep down he really doesn't like this guy. He's realizing that as much as I hated to do it, and as much as I hate to do this, I'm gonna have to basically give up ownership, a majority of ownership to Ari. He's the only guy I know that will buy it if I offer him the ownership, even though I don't like the idea of I have to take orders from that young little prick. Because that's how Vince views Ari. Ari is younger than Vince. He is younger than Vince. And Vince is going to hate the idea he has to take orders from someone younger than him. And that's the truth. He's going to hate that. He's going to despise that. I mean, you think he's going to like the idea that while he's sitting at home and everything, recovering from spinal surgery, and just getting everything up and going with the merger after tomorrow, getting everything smoothed out, getting the members of the board ready to go. Do you think he's going to like the idea that when he does return or starts communicating with them, whether it's via Zoom or whatever, that he's going to have to take orders from Ari Emanuel? You think he's going to like that? No, he's not. You think he's going to like the idea that Ari Emanuel may tell him, Vince, I like what's going on in WWE right now. The product is booming. Everybody likes the content. Let's leave it as it is. Let your son-in-law have his fun. and you just stay here on the board and help us take care of the business side of things. You think he's gonna like that? You think he's gonna like that? No, he's not gonna like that. Because he's gonna want to have a say in what happens. Creatively. There's no doubt. He's gonna want to have a say, even with the main event side of things. He's gonna want to have a say. That. You think he's gonna have to like the idea that Ari's gonna order him not to get involved as much? Of course he's not. Of course he's not gonna be happy. And yeah, I'll admit it. He will try to get involved. There's no doubt. He'll try to go like do. Ari's not looking do. Hunter. Let's change this segment and have Johnny Cagado come out with a cape and call himself Super Johnny. You can't tell me Vince won't try to find an opportunity to do that. He will. But it's going to be harder for him to do. And when you really think about it, Endeavor and Ari Emanuel will not put up with a lot of his controversial crap. They won't. I mean, look, I get, people still cite the fact that Dana White should have faced consequences for what he did. And that's true. But there's many people coming out and saying, well, both were drunk, it was New Year's Eve, both were drunk and all that, and it just was something that got out of hand when it shouldn't have. And he apologized, and even his wife came out and said, hey, it was no big deal. We were both, out of it and everything. Pretty much cleared the air. Vince, on the other hand, is a different story. Now, true, he may have paid off what he had to pay off to get whatever scandals and everything that came up last summer, out of the way. But I guarantee you, if any more comes out, then to me, Ari Emanuel and the board of directors and Endeavor and even the stockholders that are going to go along with the ride, are going to go along for the ride, they are basically going to not want to deal, or they're basically not going to deal with or tolerate any of Vince's outside antics. They're not. They're not. I know that's hard to believe, but believe me, the last thing Ari Emanuel needs after this merger happens is bad press. Bad press for this happening. People, coming out and asking, well, did you make the right decision? Did you make the right deal? Was Vince the right person to work with? He's not gonna want to deal with bad press coming out like that. Immediately after, or not even immediately after, but maybe months after, making this an official acquisition. He's not gonna want to deal with that. So, to me, whether you believe it or not, they're not going to tolerate Vince's tactics. They're not. And this is why I think, in a way, Vince is going to despise the idea that he has to work under Ari Emanuel. He's going to despise the idea he has to take orders from Ari Emanuel. He's going to despise the idea that Ari Emanuel will probably tell him, as I mentioned earlier, to not touch creative, let your son-in-law have his fun with it. He's going to hate that. He's going to hate that. He's going to hate the fact that, Ari Emanuel may tell him, hey, Nick Khan runs WWE now as the president, so whatever he says goes. And if Nick Khan wants Triple H to be in charge of creative and Triple H to assemble his own team and be rid of Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn and whoever else, then so be it. And Vince won't like that. He won't, but he's going to have to deal with it. He's going to have to deal with it, and that's a fact. That is a fact, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what occurs over the next several months after the acquisition is, made complete tomorrow, midnight tonight, and just go from there. We'll just have to see. But yeah, it's historic, guys. It is a historic moment in professional wrestling. WWE will no longer be a family-owned promotion, run by the McMahons. Instead, it will be part of a conglomerate, under Endeavor, along with UFC, under their subsidiary known as TKO. So, let me know what your thoughts are about this. Comment down below, live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Give me your thoughts. You will get a BW Roses Discussions podcast version of this, later on. But let me know how you feel about this. What do you think about it overall? About, the new regime coming in? And what do you think about Vince? What do you think is going to happen with him? Let me know. And until then, guys, I will talk to you all later.